We've grown again. From Auckland in Aotearoa, the latest from podnews.net with Supporting Cast, your one-stop shop for selling subscriptions. The US podcast ad market is now worth $1.8 billion, according to new data from the IAB and PwC. Revenue grew 26% last year, twice as fast as total internet ad revenue. However, the company saw a significant slowdown in the last quarter of the year. News has also dropped from its place as the top genre for ad revenue. The sports category is now number one with a 15% share, and the IAB predicts the market will be $3.9 billion by 2025. Well, thanks to our supporters, we've updated our podcast market data slides. You'll find those at podnews.net/articles. Among the other announcements at the IAB podcast upfronts in New York, Sony Music Entertainment announced a growing slate, including the addition of Getting Curious with Jonathan Van Ness to its network that was on Earwolf. And Wondery and Bloomberg announced a mini-series focusing on the FTX crypto scandal and Sam Bankman-Fried's part in it. It'll be available on Wondery Plus and the Bloomberg Terminal from May the 22nd. In the UK, Radar released the Spring 2023 Midas report, which measures multiplatform audio. The number of people listening to podcasts each week has doubled in the past 5 years, from 11% to 22.8% of the population. But the time spent listening to podcasts increased even more, up by more than 2.3 times. 80% of podcast listeners in the country listen to between 1 and 3 episodes a week, the research reveals, and just 1% of all audio played on smart speakers is a podcast. French audio monetization and distribution company Audion has acquired the Italian audio production company Mentre. UK production company Mags Creative is celebrating its 10th anniversary this week. UCL is offering 10 scholarships to students with links to East London who want to study a master's degree in audio storytelling. The scholarships cover tuition fees and a living allowance. Podcast launch agency and AppSumo will put on a free 12-hour live event on Monday, featuring a new industry leader every 30 minutes. I'm speaking along with leaders from AppSumo, Podopolo, Capsho, Podbean, and others. You can find out what tools they're using, how they're leveraging AI and Web3 to engage new audiences, and get access to a thriving community of experts helping each other succeed. And in the podcast business journal later, Ben Richardson from RSS.com on the company's plans for Mexico and doing business there.
In Mexico, there's a lot more personal touch, and the relationships take a little bit longer to build. But once they're built, they're really strong, and they can weather, disagreements or misunderstandings or, all the things that often show up in business.
You can subscribe to that free newsletter at podcastbusinessjournal.com. And in podcast news, in the Pod News Weekly Review this week, we hear from 2 different companies doing broadcast to podcast, Triton's Omni Studio and Spotify's Megaphone. Plus, we get a preview of the podcast show 2023 in London. For anyone interested in pets that slither, hop, creep, fly or swim, from bunnies to iguanas, parrots to ferrets, snakes to tortoises, Exotic Pets is new and hosted by Dr. Doug Mader, a triple board certified veterinary specialist, and Tracy Hotchner, host of NPR's Dog Talk. It's new from the Radio Pet Lady Network. And reminding you why you love football, the Mundial podcast is the return of popular soccer publisher Mundial to podcasting after an absence of 2 years. It previously published a Spotify exclusive called Giant. This podcast is sponsored by Supporting Cast. Supporting Cast is a one-stop shop for selling subscriptions through every major podcast app, including Spotify and Apple, without giving 30% of your subscription revenue away. You can learn more at supportingcast.fm. And that's the latest from our newsletter. To read all the stories and subscribe, we're at podnews.net.